Is it 0? One would make more sense. I'm sorry, those. Please don't. Hello. Sign up right here.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
Good. How are you guys doing?
If you need more pictures, we'll be here.
Yeah, we're gonna need you to pose.
Yeah, I'll smile.
We've never been here before. What's the?
17 on the keypad here.
Okay.
We'll show you a letter, and that'll be the elevator.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen.
Alrighty.
Would best light be over here? Where's background best light? I always used to think it's like, well, having like the river and the stuff in the back would be cool, but it's non-ideal. I am so excited. Like every time I think about Piper Apparel, I just get so hyped. Good to see you again.
How's it going? Welcome.
Hannah, nice to meet you.
Nice to see you.
You done a podcast before?
Yeah, a couple of times.
So basically, the way the podcast will work is, 30 to 40 minute conversation, pretty free flowing. I've obviously done some research. We have a common interest in the Pittsburgh economy. In broad strokes, want to establish both what you are, but also what the Allegheny Conference is, because even as, I'm 26, I've been just around the scene for a short amount of time. It's one of the organizations that's not right in your face, or that everyone has the general awareness of.
But you get it. Don't even know what it is or what.
Exactly, but as you start to get a fluency, you recognize its significance and its importance, and so I think teasing a little bit of that apart before we actually start talking about the kind of economy in general, I think would be an interesting conversation. Sure. I always say in post, I'm at least going to edit it to make myself sound a little bit smarter. So brain farts or you know.
If I get totally screwed up, or if I want to completely restate something, I have okay.
Exactly.
I will try not to do that.
Yeah.
Time went by, all of a sudden it was the birth of social media, it was the proliferation, YouTube, all these different channels, broadband came along. So all of that has put an enormous amount of additional pressure on all the traditional media, whether it's newspapers, certainly, and television and broadcasting, to really try to figure out how do you make these various media work together effectively. How can you use social media and the online presence to reinforce what you're doing on television? What is the role of a regularly scheduled television broadcast if you're trying to reach young people who tend not to sit down and watch any regularly scheduled broadcast anymore? So at this point, we've been playing in different spaces, experimenting with different things, but it's still a work in progress. We're still, I think most of us in media are still trying to figure this out.
That's the most challenging aspect of it, is that it is so constantly shifting now. It's not like there's been one shift and you just have to readjust once. It's kind of a moving target almost ceaselessly now.
Well, it is. And I remember when we first started, just here at the Allegheny Conference, so we had a very traditional public relations operation, communications operation when I started. And a few years went by, it got to be about 10 years ago, and then one of my colleagues here said, we really ought to start doing some social media. And that was literally going to be like posting to Facebook or posting to Twitter. And I was skeptical, or not skeptical. I knew we had to do it, but I was very careful in the beginning because I was worried it could be an enormous amount of time to reach a very small audience. And in the beginning, 10 years ago, that's the way it was. You could do regular television and reach tens of thousands of people instantly versus doing Twitter, and maybe you would reach hundreds of people over time. Well, that's begun to be turned upside down. The cumulative effect of being on social media through a variety of channels, the impact that YouTube has been having, has really completely changed the game. The whole social media world now has to be much more front and center in how you're thinking about all your communications to whatever your audience is. And YouTube's been a fabulous tool. Before YouTube, if you wanted to get a copy of an interview that I had done with you on my television show, it was, call the television station, maybe they'll make a videotape available to you if they feel like it. There were a lot of issues around that, and often you needed a subpoena to get a videotape. Now we post the segments every week on YouTube, and we have this continuing presence on social media. The challenge right now is how do I connect the YouTube presence to the weekly broadcast and use them really to reinforce one another, to broaden the audience and broaden the impact of the program.
So we aim towards wrapping up, Bill, before we ask our last couple questions. Given that you have been covering the Pittsburgh economy for a while, and we're really in this process here of kind of documenting as much as we can of what's happening on the ground right here in 2018, in the last few years, are there any either business leaders or stories that you've come across during your career that you feel have kind of gone by the wayside or not gotten the shine that they deserve for, something that Pittsburgh can really hang its hat on? We're known for the steel workers, or we're known for a few things. Any stories that you've seen that deserve a little bit more due?
I think the most untold story in Pittsburgh is some of the decision making that goes all the way back to the 1940s that paved the way for this tech-intensive economy that we see around us today. And it did not hatch overnight. It has been 2 generations in the making. Around the time the community was organizing to take on the terrible environment, in parallel, they were writing things like, someday Pittsburgh may not have a steel industry. And they said, you know what? We should start investing now in our colleges, because someday they will create the economy that will replace the steel industry. In the late 40s, the Mellon family gave Pitt money to build a new medical school. And then they went out across the country and they scoured for talent to come to Pittsburgh to do cutting-edge research. And one of the people they found was a young doctor named Jonas Salk, who was recruited to Pittsburgh to put the team together that ultimately cured polio. That didn't just happen. That was strategy, that was mindfulness, that was a sense of purpose that we have to start building this infrastructure. They merged Carnegie Tech, and the Mellons did this again. We're going to merge Carnegie Tech with the Mellon Institute, which was a applied research institute across from the cathedral there on Fifth Avenue in Oakland, and we're going to create Carnegie Mellon University. And that happened 50 years ago last year. And they began to build the capacity of Carnegie Mellon to generate the kind of innovation that ultimately would create a new economy. Why would anybody in that economic environment begin to think outside themselves and think about the future? And the only explanation I can come up with is that at the end of the day, they were Pittsburghers. They were Pittsburgh boys, right? They cared about the community, they cared about their own family, they cared about their kids, and they felt there was a higher purpose to what they had to do. They were, again, go all the way back to that first meeting at the William Penn in 1943. They did not come together as business leaders, they came together as citizens who had the power to make a difference, and that's what they chose to do.
Boom.
All right.
That was great.
Very good. Well, thanks. No, you're very good.
Thank you.
You did a super job.
Even just recently, we were at the New Century Careers office, and they were more or less just schooling me on local manufacturing and these jobs and everything that's happening here.
I've always loved about being a reporter, of course, when the years when I was doing it. It was every day I got to go out and meet somebody in a totally different setting. I got access to everything, and it is. And most people never get those opportunities to really plug into all the different things that you can be exposed to.
So I was looking at your YouTube channel, and I saw one thing that might be able to help you guys get a little bit more engagement on it. I don't know if that would be.
I can in this space.
So this is something that we do. For the last 10 seconds of your video, you put an end screen, something like this on. It can take 1,000 different forms, but it just says subscribe. And then what this actually isn't in the video. Like if I can actually show you here. What YouTube allows you to do is direct the next behavior as opposed to just their internal algorithms suggesting the next video. You have a little bit more autonomy. What you could do not only is just say, these are the other episodes from, or the other videos from that specific day's episode, but you could also do a callback. So if Henry Thorne, I'm just top of mind, decides to come back on with his next company.
Oh, okay.
You could do a callback to when Henry was on 4 years ago. And it creates these different structures for the narrative of contextualizing, all right, we just talked here in 2018, but this is what it was in 2013. And so that's also the core premise behind Piper, which is we're just building context, and we're going to interlink this vlog episode with the one where we pitched you. So we're going to do a little tag that says, this is the first time we met Bill, and it's going to tag it out to the vlog episode where we first met you. Who knows, maybe 15 years from now, you're opening up the next Going Deep Summit, and then we can do an even greater tag. And it's these different narratives that come all the way through that YouTube allows you to do. So
interesting. Okay, I will absolutely mention that to our gang, because I think right now we just end when the segment ends. It just ends, right? Like a television show. That's the leap, you know.
Right.
You go from traditional media to thinking about how to use
tailor it to the specific platform.
exactly.
Your tools.
But it's that opportunity for a call to action that it just makes sense to take advantage of.
We just to figure out how to go back with 1,000 interviews.
Yeah, that would probably be
this on every show, on every episode. Right?
Yeah.
But at least going forward, right, we could do it. Or I could hire an intern over the summer and let that poor soul
Exactly.
do nothing but paste these things on the end of the shows. Great idea. Well, good.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, this will be up in next week. I'll shoot you links and everything whenever it goes up.
Well, all right. Well, it's great to meet you.
It was really nice to meet you too. Thank you for doing this.
I'm still thinking, we talked before about your whole idea about blogging about businesses and things. So I think that could be a good segment for the TV show. So we'll circle back and
Awesome.
try to get that order. Probably later in the summer. We're so heavily backlogged through June at this point.
Certainly.
Yeah, maybe we can do it.
Beautiful.
That'd be cool. Well, great to see you both.